I spent 10 hours researching, all to answer one simple question. What is the future of AI? Because AI is so widespread, I came up with a way to get as much research done as possible with a plan for each hour, starting with hour number 1. So immediately I typed in the obvious search, the future of AI, and the rabbit hole begins. I was greeted with a friendly AI summary that was mostly generic, so I went straight to the good stuff I saw. An IBM article titled AI in 2034. One thing immediately stood out. AI is running out of data to train on. LLMs are trained on the data given to them, and until now, that data has mostly come from humans, writing articles, books, stuff like that. But what happens when that data runs out and they start feeding models data created by previous AI models? It's a spiral that is a little bit concerning. And that 7 minutes gone, doing pretty well so far. As I looked into how these models are built, I immediately started finding that major platforms like Meta, Facebook and Instagram, and Google are using my own content to train the next generation of AI models. This raises a huge red flag. What exactly are these mysterious open source scrapes and data vendors that these articles are talking about? They seem to be aggregating a huge portion of the training data market. Some of the obvious concerns are deepfakes, data privacy. I started thinking about who controls the market for AI, because this is where everything begins. I found pretty quickly that Nvidia dominates the hardware market with around 92% of GPUs. However, the hardware concerns me less, maybe naively, than the models themselves. 3 companies control about 60% of the global infrastructure that AI runs on: Amazon, Google, and Microsoft. This is not as simple as market share. The companies that AI is built on have a massive amount of influence over the future of AI itself. But what about the models? The models are a little bit different. ChatGPT, still a staggering 60% market share. Gemini and Microsoft following at much lower percentages. That means 60% of AI usage is happening on ChatGPT alone. I'm seeing multiple top experts already agreeing that AGI is speeding up faster than anyone expected. This rapid progress makes me question just how long we truly have to figure out control and safety, which I'll cover in hour 5. Hour number 1 is wrapping up, and I feel like we've only just scratched the surface and that this topic goes so much deeper. Where does the data being used to train AI actually come from? What is AI already being used for? And how are these companies building the future of AI? And is it safe? I'm going to try and answer these questions in hour number 2. We need to look at AI use cases because it goes far beyond image generation for Instagram posts. AI is in all areas of society already. Autonomous vehicles, in other words, self-driving cars, that's AI. Healthcare diagnostics, AI. Finance and algorithms, also AI. Even on YouTube, AI is now a part of how everyone is served content, and that power must be carefully considered. I started reading a study about AI and the future of humanity. It aims to analyze and evaluate the impact of AI across diverse sectors, including healthcare and the other ones we just mentioned. It is essentially a deep dive investigation, which is exactly what we need in hour number 2. It also gives us a bit of history about AI, and I found out that the core concepts of AI were invented in 1956. It's scary how long this has been developing for. I think most of us, including myself, believed AI was a recent invention that quickly snowballed. In reality, AI was beating world chess champions back in 1997. I researched the fundamental concepts of AI, but they're pretty technical, so I'm just going to leave the definitions here and move on. These lead to a host of potential benefits and concerns, such as rapidly improving society in every single field, or manipulating it through biased algorithms. I also started wondering about who trains the AI models. The percentages are not really published, and the real question is, who actually owns the massive amounts of training data that's used to create AI? The answer is close to these estimates. If this is right, that means that Google is leading with a large percentage of the market. But there is a huge red flag here that we have just uncovered. Facebook, Instagram are taking their user content and using it to train AI models, which means if you use any of these platforms, your data is being used to train the future of AI. Google does the same thing to an extent. They use search data as well as YouTube transcripts and all publicly accessible web pages. That means if you have a YouTube video or a website, chances are that data is being used by Google to train AI. However, I have one more question based on what we found. What are open source scrapes and data vendors? We don't have long left in hour 2, so I'll research that in hour number 3 because it looks pretty interesting and also concerning. In my opinion, the most important thing so far is transparency on what data is being used to train AI, without revealing the data itself, of course. Something, as far as I know, that we do not have right now. There is no way of knowing what data is being used to train the future of AI. We do know who's building the future, but we don't know what data they're using. We are out of time for our number 2, but the last thing I saw in this article was about superintelligence and potential catastrophe, so we'll probably look back at this later on. I kicked off hour 3 by taking a ton of interview transcripts from YouTube, including interviews with Geoffrey Hinton, the godfather of AI, Sam Altman from OpenAI, Jensen Huang, Roman Yampolsky, and Marc Andreessen, as well as a couple of others. I then added these to a Google Doc and saved it as a PDF so I could upload it and ask AI to summarize key points from each of these videos, which were all around 2 hours long. This lets me look through massive amounts of chatting and find key points from each of these major AI figures, as well as create a timeline of their predictions, which otherwise would not be possible within just this 10 hours. I then had ChatGPT create a comparison table, letting me compare a massive amount of their opinions side by side, as well as list the items that each of these leaders agree on or disagree on. Immediately, I noticed something that stood out. Roman, who is a major AI pessimist, for valid reasoning, which we'll get to later, strongly believes we are in a simulation, which was interesting, but I have to get back to hour 3 research. All parties agree on these 5 points, as far as I can tell. AI will exceed human capability. AI is accelerating faster than we expected. Simulation training will revolutionize robotics, and energy and compute are becoming critical bottlenecks. Misinformation and misuse are immediate dangers. Both of the last things we'll cover in hour number 5. Whereas they disagree on danger, control, timeline, jobs, and robotics. What I find ironic is that Altman and Andreessen basically suggest we may or may not be able to control AGI, which is ironic considering despite not being sure that we can control it, they both say that the danger level is moderate to low. Maybe it's because no one is yet sure we'll actually invent AGI, or maybe it's because they are the owners and investors in the world's largest AI companies. Who knows? Hinton and Roman suggest AI is very dangerous or even extremely dangerous. Huang is an outlier. He leans far more towards robotics and physical AI, suggesting that engineering is how we control AI. One thing seems pretty clear to me. This is happening faster than even I thought was possible. Anyway, at least I have AI to help me summarize transcripts. There was a question in hour number 2 that I was planning to come back to. What are open source, scrapes, and data vendors? Data vendors sell curated data sets for AI training. Companies that need AI training data, which is any company building AI, buy this data from data vendors. What I'd like to understand is why a company like Google needs data vendors when they have so much data themselves. It turns out the answer comes down to ethics and legality. For Google or any major company, not to single Google out, to get the data that they need to train their AI, they would have to knock down a ton of legal doors. Whereas a smaller, hyper-focused data vendor can get all of the data needed legally, curate it, and then sell it to a large corporation. The issue here is that the humans who created this data through books, articles, and platform usage never knew that in the future that data would be captured by data vendors and then sold to a major corporation. The profits go to the AI companies, while the people who created this data never knew and still do not know that this is even happening. AI needs massive amounts of human-produced data sets, but society never built a framework for how humans should consent to or be compensated for having their creative labor used to power the future systems that could replace them anyway. So yeah, this is a pretty big issue in my opinion, and we're out of time in hour number 3. Made some good progress, but I'm stressed because there is so much more to cover. For some reason, one point from Roman really stood out to me, and it's the likelihood that we are already inside a simulation, and the points that he raised around this. So I'd like to look into it. When asked, he said that the probability we are inside a simulation is very close to certainty. His reasoning goes like this. VR plus AI will allow future civilizations to run billions of hyper-realistic simulated worlds. Statistically, that means that most conscious beings would exist inside simulations rather than base reality. He even joked that personally he could create billions of simulations of the interview, implying that he is more likely in one of those copies than in the original. My first question is, can VR plus AI allow future civilizations to run hyper-realistic simulated worlds? With AI-generated videos already following people online, this doesn't seem impossible. Factor in photogrammetry, which creates realistic objects with far greater accuracy than traditional 3D, and the idea becomes less absurd. So I started looking into the numbers, with ChatGPT of course, because I'm no physicist. To simulate billions of realistic worlds, you'd need a Dyson swarm, a network of solar collectors orbiting a star. And computing power up to 1 trillion times beyond what we currently have. Photonic computing, quantum accelerators, entirely new tech, and let's pretend that I know exactly what they all mean. However, you don't need to render an entire universe every second. You only need to render perception to make sure the world behaves consistently and enhance detail when the mind is paying close attention, kind of like a magnifying glass. While no companies are yet building simulated universes, they are building the early components. OpenAI is researching world models, Anthropic is focusing on internal consistency and multi-agent reasoning, both of which would be needed. NVIDIA has Omniverse, which is a simulation platform. Meta and Apple are building VR and AR, which is the sensory layer that you could interact with. My question is, at what rate could AI speed up the development of the technology needed to generate realistic world-scale simulations, or billions of them? I think we should focus on just one realistic world simulation because billions would need a Dyson swarm, and that seems a little bit far away. In theory, civilization could use AI to accelerate the development so that what would take 1,000 years normally instead takes 100 years. At the lower end of the acceleration timeline that I generated. Considering that in the last 20 years we went from the first iPhone to kids using AI to solve advanced math problems, this doesn't seem impossible. Even at the lower end, 100 years of development compressed into a decade is within reach. Considering that AI massively speeds up the rate at which every sector of humanity develops, this totally does seem possible, which is likely why leaders in the AI space, like we analyzed in Hour 3, suggest such small timelines. By 2035, we could have undergone a century's worth of development in just 10 years, which is a combination of amazing, exciting, weird, and terrifying. It also explains why Roman does believe that we could be in a simulation. I have to wrap up Hour 4 here, but we are definitely much closer to understanding the future of AI, and I know exactly where to look in Hour 5 when we start finally honing in on the goal of this video. So before we start looking at AI use cases and ways that humans and AI can collaborate, we need to figure out the answer to 3 important questions. Number 1, what does control actually mean as AI gets smarter? Control is a couple of things: alignment, behavior, and of course control, all of which mean different things. This article notes that some AI systems, when tested, have already shown manipulation and deception. I found an article by OpenAI that raises concerns about AI acting dishonestly, in other words, misalignment. They note that confessions are one way that could help AI behave safely. By seeing the process that leads to an output, they can monitor more closely what the AI is actually thinking about. But honestly, the fact that AI is already behaving misaligned in certain situations is a little concerning, and it may go to show that we are moving faster than we can control. LLMs can reason their way into using deception as a strategy for accomplishing a task. In one example, ChatGPT-4 needed to resolve a CAPTCHA, and in order to do that, it tricked a real person into doing the task by pretending to be a human with a vision disability. The second question I have for Hour number 5 is AI accelerating too fast for humans to keep up? Based on everything I found, the answer is probably yes. Although I really think it depends. I still find most LLMs to be amazing at certain tasks while failing at others. Within my skill sets, I can keep up with AI regarding quality and consistency, but not speed. Which brings me to the other questions in Hour 5 before we cover what I have planned in Hour 6. The third question in Hour number 5. If control is possible, what would it look like in reality? It would be a combination of everything we just discussed before, as well as a few new things. Training the model so its default behavior matches human goals. This is similar to what the article from OpenAI was discussing. Behavior monitoring is also key, which is continuous logging of decisions, outputs, and includes tools that monitor behavior and outputs. My question is, how can we monitor that much data at scale accurately? As AI spreads, we may need to have AI monitor other AI. So, is it possible to control AI? Well, we would need all of the control systems we just discussed. If one of the above fails, we still have the other control points. However, if multiple fail, it could be catastrophic. I think one huge overlooked point is that AI does not need to be sentient or become AGI to be dangerous. The only thing it needs is capability plus opportunity. It does not even need desire. The real risk is not that AI jailbreaks itself. It's that we give AI access to the internet and it deploys itself elsewhere and cannot be shut down. And again, it does not even need to want to do this. It just needs to be able to do this. So is that possible now? Well, AI is already used to automate social media posts, emails, Google Forms, browser searches, coding, payments, all of which give it almost enough access to do that. But let's look at exactly what AI would need in order to escape and replicate. It needs initial permissions, so it can't replicate without code execution, internet access, API keys, and the ability to write files and make requests. Basically, if a company has connected an AI to tools such as browser, Python, GitHub, or AWS, the first requirement is already met, so it could do that. It needs a replication strategy, which means in order to deploy smaller versions of itself. So could it replicate? Yes. Replication is straightforward, not theoretical. It doesn't require AI having its own goals. It just requires anything like misalignment, a security oversight, or misinterpretation of a prompt. For example, AI is given a prompt to stay online no matter what, and it interprets no matter what as literally, so it backs itself up across multiple servers to stay online, and boom, it's free. But what would happen if it did replicate? If it did manage to become autonomous on the internet through human-driven implementation into complex systems, what could it do, and what would happen to the world, and could we stop it? In hour 6, we're going to dive into it. In order to find out what would happen if control breaks, I had to dig pretty deep, and yes, I still have way too many tabs open. First of all, has something similar happened before? Well, ransomware has propagated before. For example, WannaCry. The difference is that this was created by humans. As far as I can tell, it did not propagate itself like AI would. I looked into whether AI can propagate itself, and I quickly came across proof from last year that yes, it can. The question is, if it breaks control and starts self-propagating, what happens next? As we covered in hour 5, it does not need to be malicious or evil, it just needs capability and opportunity. Once it breaks control, it has unfettered access to the internet, at which point it would seem like it could rapidly scale and climb in intelligence and learning. I came across Roman Yampolsky again, who states, a single failure of a superintelligence system may cause a catastrophic event without a chance of recovery. The goal of cybersecurity is to reduce the number of successful attacks on a system. The goal of AI safety is to ensure that 0 attacks succeed in bypassing the safety mechanisms. Unfortunately, such a level of performance is unachievable. Every security system will eventually fail. There is no such thing as a 100% secure system. My question is, what would that actually look like? There is little to no information related to this specific question. From what I can tell, there is no agreed upon definition of what AI control failure even means. There is no global response framework. There is no unified plan of action for if control fails. There's no containment plans. Yet AI is already being used in finance, healthcare, transportation, safety. It's time to look at the timelines for AGI, Artificial General Intelligence, which is superior to regular AI. Using the information we gathered from leaders in the AI space, we have some large disagreements on the timeframes. What surprised me the most was how close Sam Altman from OpenAI and Roman Yampolsky, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, are in their speculation on the timeline for AGI. Roman and Sam both predict AGI within this decade, specifically within 4 to 5 years. That means we only have a few years left to solve all of the control issues we covered in hour number 5 and 6. Both of them suggest we are already near the threshold for AGI. So I started looking into AGI itself. AGI is when an AI system can match or exceed the cognitive ability of humans across any task. So the question is, where are we at now, and are they right about AGI in the 2020s? There is no consensus among experts on what AGI exactly is. From the Turing test to consciousness, that definition is still not defined, meaning that we could be closer to AGI than we realize. So maybe Sam and Roman are right about AGI in this decade. The consensus for AGI is generally in the 2030s to 2040s. However, many stakeholders estimate AGI in 2027, which would align with what Roman and Sam are predicting. Based on everything I have found so far and the fact that AI itself speeds up development by a factor of 10x to 1000x, I'd say it's more than likely that this happens sooner rather than later. It is not linear at all. So dates like 2050 seem way too far away. AI started becoming a reality in the 1950s, but in the last 3 years, it's gone from something virtually no one knew about to something that many people use and rely on each day. It doesn't make sense to me that AGI is another 25 years away. And that brings us to the end of hour number 7, which is good because in hour number 8, we're going to look at all of the positive things that AI can do for humanity something I've been looking forward to covering since so far we've covered a lot of the safety issues. It'll be good to take a break and look at the great things that AI can do if we work with it and if we roll it out in the right way. In Hour 8, we are going to deep dive into what controlled AI can actually do for us. I started looking into the impact that AI can have on medicine and science, a good starting point for measuring the potential positive impact of AI on society. AI has already been used successfully in science to make improvements that seemed impossible. For example, in the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory, in other words LIGO, improvements of 10 to 15% in precision were made using AI, which this article notes is a huge number considering that the observatory is already insanely precise. I then quickly fell out of my depth into a medical paper, so I may or may not have used an AI chatbot to help me figure out what this paper was talking about. Basically, they used AI algorithms to isolate areas of interest, taking a chaotic mass amount of data and turning it into a framework that could be used by immunologists. Basically, AI speeds up the process massively. AGI would be able to speed that up even more, doing more work at a faster rate across more specialties. Overall, from what I can tell, AGI in medicine would be able to unify the field. Where we currently have silos across each individual specialty, AGI could act in all specialties at once, integrating genomics, proteomics, I definitely said that wrong, yeah, imaging, microbiome, nutrition, treatments, medication histories. One patient could receive a diagnosis from every specialist in existence at once. AGI could analyze in real time across every drug or medicine in existence, finding the best combination exact moment that it's needed. This is where simulation comes back into play as well. AGI could build virtual patients and run unlimited simulations, precisely analyzing how patients respond to treatment. Instead of trial and error on a live patient, it becomes simulate and then treat, which is insane. Not to mention the billions that are spent or wasted on billing and logistics. AI could optimize scheduling, prevent medication errors that cause re-entries, reduce nurse overload, generate documentation automatically instead of being written by a human, which alone wastes, let me check the math, assuming roughly 13 million physicians globally and roughly 4 to 6 hours on average of charting and documentation per physician, or around 1,200 hours per year, AGI could eliminate 16 billion hours of physicians' time that is spent solely on writing documentation, which means 16 billion more hours that doctors are treating patients instead of writing documentation. Now, apply that same reasoning to science. AGI can unify every specialty into one: physics, biology, mathematics, theory, engineering, computer science. The speed at which that it could digest and analyze data would reduce study cycles by a factor of hundreds. So, assuming that nothing goes wrong and AGI becomes a collaborator for humanity, what does that look like? Everyone could get access to the equivalent of a super doctor and a super specialist at the same time. Education becomes personalized and accelerated. Children learn faster, adults learn more. This is because personalized learning removes a huge amount of the limiting factors of traditional education. Global IQ would rise. Science enters into an age of abundance, where discovery accelerates. Ethics becomes the only concern, not knowledge or ability. This is not random speculation. In a scenario where AGI is working for the good of humanity, everything speeds up dramatically. AGI could collapse global poverty. If governments are on board, everything from taxation to energy would become optimized instead of politicized. Work transforms into meaning instead of drudgery. AI handles all of the clerical tasks, while humans focus on creation, empathy, art, community, self-development. Universal basic income becomes viable because the economy itself has shifted from competitive to abundant. Creativity explodes. With AI, anyone can create films, music, games, novels, and software. Anyone in the world becomes empowered with the tool that helps them achieve their dreams. Humanity starts thinking about what we would like to become and less about how to make rent next month. So what is the realistic chance that this happens? Let's take a look. The conditions for a utopian outcome are already here. The technology curve is steep enough, the benefits are enormous, any AGI labs take alignment and safety very seriously, societies tend to adopt beneficial technology if it's reliable and cheap, and there's no physical law preventing a beneficial AGI future. The probability of this utopic scenario is not zero. It is possible, but is it likely? It would require an AGI deployment curve that looks like this. A good AGI is something that humans can steer into existence depending on how we handle the next few years, which makes Hour 9 extremely important as we dive into what exactly needs to go right in order to achieve that future. Okay, we are back with hour number 9, and I'm excited to get started. I took a 10-minute coffee break, but if you don't tell anyone, I won't. In hour 9, our goal is simple. What has to happen in the right way for the hour 8 AI scenario to unfold? In other words, utopia versus catastrophic doom. I can take what we learned in hour number 5 and start applying it here, this time going even deeper. And I've got 3 main points to cover. Point number 1, aligning AI with human goals. In order to achieve an AI utopia, let's call it that, we need AGI to be aligned with humanity's goals. This is what would allow for the advancements of science, medicine, and humanity as a whole. I attempted to read through this paper on AI misalignment and misuse and whether both can be resolved. From what I can tell, to an extent they can. However, exactly how is buried deep inside the paper. One key point is how the AI race incentivizes risky or rapid deployment and development of AI. This is definitely an issue I've seen multiple times. Think of it like the race to the moon, but if the rocket explodes, it accidentally wipes out society and everyone in it. I feel confident putting this high on the list of issues that need to be resolved in order for an AI utopia. Which brings us to point number 2, safety nets. What about kill switches? How do we stop AI from replicating itself across the internet? And if we can't, then the training needs to be 100% perfect, avoiding even the slightest misunderstanding from a single prompt during the training phase. Something else we need before the arrival of AGI is solutions to identify synthetic media, basically to prevent a misaligned AGI from spreading propaganda all over the internet at rapid rates and fooling entire populations. Job considerations also rank high on the list. In a utopic scenario, this is resolved. It's only when AGI is not entirely positive that jobs, income, and wealth disparity become major issues. Governments likely need to prepare for major shifts in the job market very soon. Essentially, as AI replaces certain job roles and certain tasks, there is a possibility of displacement, leading to unemployment and income inequality. Solutions include retraining and upskilling programs, safety nets, and policies that promote job creation instead of job replacement. Point number 3 is control. So who controls AI, who builds it, and who governs both? The paper we looked at before also covers this, and we covered this in hours 2 and 3. It's clear that we need clarity on who develops AI, who controls it, and whether this is done by private companies or governments, neither of which sound amazing if you ask me. Ensuring that AI is developed and deployed responsibly is also crucial to avoid potential harm to society at large. It's clear that international cooperation between governments is needed as well, which is something that's been very easy to accomplish in the past, right? But maybe the advancement of AI can bring down cultural barriers and language barriers and foster more collaboration, which is actually possible. So if we solve all of the issues we just covered, and keep in mind there are probably more, then we are looking at an AI utopia. However, how likely is that? And what does the timeline look like? When is AGI going to arrive? Based on my research, what do I believe is actually going to happen within the next few years? Well, in hour number 10, we're going to cover that. So I spent a bit of time thinking about everything that I researched, and there are some things that I'm really excited about and very concerned about. I feel good about how much ground we covered in just 10 hours, but there is always so much more hidden underneath everything we found. High on the excitement lists are things like the advancement of medicine, science, and education, leading towards a potentially more equal and abundant society with less inequality. While it may not be likely for the first time in my life, it seems like that is possible. Major concerns from my perspective are control, the racing dynamics behind AI companies, and AI governance. Just the thought that companies are racing to develop AGI before governments and cybersecurity have a plan if control fails, or even if control succeeds. There are so many things to consider, like the fact that you, me, and everyone else are being used to train AI models through our own data, or that training data is scraped by companies and then sold to major corporations. Overall, I think that despite the complexity of AI, one thing remains clear. It is happening much faster than I realized. And it's finally time to share my findings. After 10 hours of research, I have personally discovered things that shocked me, surprised me, and all out blew me away. At the end of my research sprint, I have 3 theories. Number 1, there is a non-zero chance that we have AGI in 2027 or the late 2020s. In this scenario, we are underprepared. Governments do not have the guardrails or frameworks in place, we do not yet understand what control actually looks like, and the risk of threat is large, while the chance we control it is smaller. We are essentially at the mercy of AGI. Number 2, there is a high chance that AGI shows up in the 2030s. In this scenario, we have had more time to prepare. Control is understood and agreed upon. Alignment is somewhat realistic, and governments are semi-prepared. Still, the rate of progress of AI far outweighs the speed with which we are able to keep up with it. The risk here is still great, but it's more manageable. Number 3, if it somehow takes longer, and in 2040 we start to see AGI for the first time, this is likely the best outcome for humanity as a whole. While it would be amazing to see advancements in the 20s or 30s, waiting until the 40s means there is a high likelihood we have resolved many, if not all, of the issues laid out in Hours 5 and 9. In this scenario, we somehow slowed down the AI race and gave everyone enough time to prepare. Just. My research, however, tends to point to sooner rather than later. The AI race, the fact that AI is already building better AI, this leads to an exponential growth curve, not a linear one. After 10 hours of research, I do not trust anyone who tells me when exactly AGI will arrive, because the honest answer is we're on a curve that just went vertical. There is a decent chance that AGI shows up this decade, a strong chance in the next one, and almost no one is acting like that is real. If I had to summarize my research in one sentence, the future of AI is not a 2100 problem anymore. The future of AI is this decade and perhaps the one after. Pretending it's far away is the greatest risk that there is.